Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you're receiving this information. My name is Rafael Vázquez Guzmán, and I am the Executive Director of Lideres del Futuro Avanzando, a nonprofit organization here in Sonoma County that looks and advocates for resources for the Latinx community with a special emphasis in the immigrant community. We focus on issues of education, immigration, and just success. And we are the sister nonprofit organization of Humanidad Therapy and Education Services that has existed in Sonoma County for almost a decade. And the goal of that organization is to provide mental health services with an emphasis on the Latinx community, but we support everybody. And I am also privileged to be the president of the board of Humanidad Therapy and Educational Services. And one of the things that we have to do in order to know exactly what services to provide is we have to do research. Lideres del Futuro Avanzando just completed a survey recently with 253 high school students from Santa Rosa, but we know that the results of this survey, because of its size, are representative of the rest of Sonoma County and possibly parts of the state of California. And so we invited all of the students to participate in the survey, and we are going to present to you now the results of that survey because it's important that we pay attention to what is happening and the conversation that really is not happening at home, at school, and the community. Líderes del Futuro and Humanidad Therapy and Education Services is developing new programming in order to support this type of work. And so we are going to present to you the results of this research with the intention that families will pay attention, educational centers will pay attention, and of course, Humanidad Therapy and Educational Services will continue to advocate and provide services to our youth through something that we call the youth convivencias. In this survey, out of 253 individuals, 57% were females, 42% were males. And we're going to be giving you some data over the next couple of minutes. And what we see is that 45% of these individuals are 10th graders. And again, we had 8% seniors who are ready to graduate high school. And in fact, what they tell us is that they are not ready to continue with their education. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. And so we took a survey that was designed by therapists, by psychologists, and we applied most of the questions of that here with the intention of not triggering individuals with their traumas, but to be able to get a better understanding of what's going on. Most of the individuals who participated in this survey are identified as Latino, Latina, Hispanic, or Latinx. There were a couple of Asian Americans and African Americans that participated, but for the most part, they were individuals within the Latinx community. And we asked them different questions, including whether or not in the last 4 weeks, how much have they been bothered by any of the symptoms such as stomach aches. We'll focus just on the ones that have been bothered the most or a lot. 34 of 253 of them have had this type of stomach ache on a regular basis. When we talk about back pain, 46 of them have been having these problems on a regular basis. Pain in their arms, legs, and joints, 21 out of 253. And then when we move to questions about whether or not they have been feeling tired or having little energy, out of 253, 107 of them have been bothered a lot. It's important to notice that 115 responded that they have been bothered somewhat, but 107 have been bothered a lot. When we ask students if they were having trouble falling or staying asleep or sleeping too much, 60 of them, again, said that this has become an issue for them. When we ask about headaches, out of 253, 45 of them said that, again, this is something that they're dealing with on a regular basis. In regards to chest pain, 13 out of 253 indicated this has become an issue for them. Dizziness, 24 out of 253. And when we moved to fainting, 27 of them said that they had that as an issue that has become a problem. When we talk about difficulty breathing or shortness of breath, we're talking about 16 of them have had that issue. For individuals that were asked if they've had constipation or diarrhea, 9 out of 253 are having this issue on a regular basis. It is important to remember, when we look at it from a psychological point of view, that a lot of problems, if they are not attended to from a psychology point of view, from an emotional point of view, they may become psychosomatic. They may become physical illnesses, because if we are avoiding paying attention to our emotional health or anxiety or depression, eventually the brain turns it into a physical illness so that you pay attention to it. And finally, individuals were asked if they've been suffering from nausea or indigestion. 17 of them said that this has become an issue for them. And then we ask individuals whether or not they have been dealing with nervousness and anxiety over the last 2 weeks. 35 of them said that nearly every day they've been having this as a problem. And again, there are others that have had it a few days out of the last 2 weeks, but those, we're going to focus on this section on those who have shared that they are dealing with this on a daily basis or almost on a daily basis. When we ask individuals how many of them are having a difficulty controlling how much they worry, 23 out of 253 are having that problem almost every day. When we ask them how many of them are worrying too much about different things, 34 out of 253. When we ask how many of them are having trouble relaxing, 21 said that every day they have that as a difficult situation. When we ask how many of them are being so restless that it is hard to sit still, 17 of them out of 253. Some of these are kids that then ask on a regular basis to go use the restroom because when they are in class, because they simply cannot sit still. And when we ask them how many of them are having difficulty with becoming easily annoyed or irritable, 34 out of 253 are dealing with that issue in the last 2 weeks. And when we ask how many of them were feeling afraid as if something awful might happen, let us remember that these kids have been dealing with the fires of 2017, 2019, 2020, a few fires here and there over the last couple of years. And then we had the pandemic, and we've had a couple of earthquakes, and then we are hearing on a regular basis that there's a drought going on. Again, it is important that in schools and at home, these children are asked how they're feeling, with the intention of not judging them and not telling them to get over it, but to really listen and provide support. And so 19 out of 253 indicated that they are having that difficulty, that belief, that feeling that something awful might happen. And so how do we expect these children to focus in school, in their jobs, in anything else? And this is where some of them start, again, playing video games, they're fidgeting with their phone as a way of getting through the day. And so we ask this type of questions to these children because we believe this is important. And then we ask individuals, in the last 4 weeks, have you had an anxiety attack? And then we define what that meant. And what we had was 60 out of 253 have had at least one anxiety attack in the last 4 weeks. 60 out of 253 is a huge number, especially if they don't have somebody that they can turn to. And so we ask students a few additional questions, including over the last 2 weeks, how often have you been bothered by any of the following problems, including having little interest or pleasure in doing things that used to be fun. And so 17 out of 253 indicated that almost every day, but close to 100 others said that several days out of the last 2 weeks, they again have lost an interest in doing activities that used to bring them pleasure. 21 of them said that for the last 2 weeks, they have been feeling down, depressed, or hopeless. 21 out of 253 every day. And then we had close to 48 others that said that more than half of the last 2 weeks, they have been feeling depressed, feeling down in general, or hopeless. That number again is huge. And then we asked them how many of them are having trouble falling asleep or staying asleep, or again, sleeping too much over the last 2 weeks. And 31 of them said every day they're having those problems. And then we asked them how many of them are feeling tired or having little energy. 36 out of 253 of them are having those issues. We asked them how many of you are having poor appetite or overeating to the point that you recognize it. 25 out of 253 said that is a problem for them. And again, we are looking only at the extreme, everyday situations. We also asked them a very important question, and that is, how many of you are feeling bad about yourselves over the last 2 weeks, or that you are a failure or have let yourself or your family down? It is important for us to understand this. 29 out of 253 said that they felt like a failure. They felt they maybe let their family down or themselves. Again, this is an important number. 29 said every day, and close to 40 said at least more than half of the days. And another close to 70 said that several days over the last 2 weeks, they felt that way. So again, this is a problem in our community, but the question is, are we looking at that? As parents, are we paying attention to this? As administrators, are we focusing on other things rather than making sure that our children are doing well? What about those families that are immigrants to this country and they don't even understand anything about the resources that may or may not be available? And as institutions of mental health, what are we doing? So this is important. And then we ask these children, how many of them were having trouble concentrating on things such as reading, watching TV, being on YouTube? And so many children we know tend to use television, YouTube, Instagram, Snapchat, and all of these things to avoid dealing with their reality, their feelings of depression, anxiety, and everything else. But now what we are starting to see is that not even that is working for these children. 22 out of 253 admitted that every day they're not even finding that interesting. They cannot even concentrate on YouTube, TV, or any of those distractions. And then we have close to 45 others for whom more than half of the days in the last 2 weeks, they've also had that difficulty. And then we have 76 others that say several days over the last 2 weeks. So again, and then you have more than half of the 253 who are having difficulty even, again, distracting their brains. It's important that we pay attention to that. And so then we turn and we ask, how many of you are feeling comfortable asking your teachers for help if you're feeling down? 49% of them say yes, but 50% said no. That is 128 out of 253 students who are in high schools in the city of Santa Rosa. And again, I want to be clear, this is not just one district, but multiple districts. 128 said that they don't feel comfortable going to their teachers to ask for help. And then we asked them how many of them felt comfortable going to their counselors for help. A higher number, 143, said they don't feel comfortable going to their counselors for help. And then we said, what about your family? Do you feel comfortable going to talk to your parents or legal guardians for help if you're feeling down? And the answer was 76 of the 253 of them said no. And I want you to pay attention to this 30%. We're going to come back to it in a few minutes. But it is important that we pay attention to this, because if we are not paying attention, then this is where drugs, alcohol, and gang recruitment becomes a thing. And so, again, we ask them, why is it that they don't feel comfortable going to these people? And often what they said was, I don't want to worry them, or I don't want to talk about it, or I don't want them to know. I'd rather keep it to myself. And those were the typical responses for that 30%. And then we asked them if there was somebody that they could turn to, somebody else, right? And they said 25 out of 253 said that they had absolutely nobody they could turn to if they were feeling down. And so we asked them one other question here. And the question was, are you aware of any of your friends who have turned to alcohol or other substances as a way to cope with feeling down? 25.3% or 64 individuals said that they know somebody that is using drugs or alcohol, right? The survey was anonymous, so they didn't have to worry about somebody finding out their names or anything else. But it is important. One of the previous questions we talked about was 30% of the individuals, again, didn't have somebody at home that could support them. And here we have 25% or 64 individuals who know somebody who's using drugs or alcohol. It's important that we understand that our children will turn to drugs and alcohol, or again, other unhealthy behavior, which we didn't ask about. We also didn't ask about suicide ideation for obvious reasons. But what we wanted to find out is how we could support these individuals. We asked them what career they wanted to see themselves in the future. A few of them share what career they wanted. A lot of them just said, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. And then we asked them if they felt ready for college. And if not, why not? Most of the responses, or 50% of the responses that we receive in this situation, said that they were not ready to participate in college. And a good number of those 50% actually said that they are not planning to go to college. And this is problematic for multiple reasons, right? And again, what interventions can we provide to these children at home, at school, and as a community organization? At the end of the survey, we provided them with the national hotline for suicide prevention. We provided them with the website for Humanidad Therapy and Education Services. We provided them with the phone number. We did the survey in English and in Spanish, and information was provided in both languages. And so it's important that we pay attention to our children. It's important that we pay attention to our community. And again, we want to remind you that there are resources out there. One of the things that Humanidad Therapy and Education Services, as well as Lideres del Futuro Avanzando, wants to make sure is that we as a community, if the children are telling us that they don't feel comfortable coming to us to talk to us about how they're doing, we need to provide them the tools via text, via putting a sign on the fridge door that say, because I love you and because I care and because perhaps you don't feel comfortable telling me that you're not doing okay, I want you to have access to these resources. If an individual texts 988, they now can get in contact with somebody and talk about how they're feeling. Or they call 1-800-273-8255. And again, that's the suicide prevention hotline, available 24 hours a day. In the North Bay, we also have the North Bay Suicide Prevention Hotline, 855-587-6373. 855-587-6373. And in Sonoma County, there is a chapter of NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness. You can go to namisonomacounty.org and again, connect with the resources. This is not just for people who require resources because they have mental health issues, but families. Families can learn how to work with their bipolar family member, schizophrenic family member, and other resources. And again, Humanidad Therapy and Education Service will soon be providing a lot of trainings for youth. These are called youth convivencias, which is where they come together and the youth can share about their feelings and their thoughts in a healthy space. These meetings are run by one of our therapists. And so individuals can go to our website. You can just either search Humanidad Therapy and Education Service, or you can also call 707-525-1515 and ask for more information about the services that are available for youth. And this is what Humanidad and Líderes del Futuro Avanzando can provide. And we need to get this type of resources in the schools. But as parents, as legal guardians, as administrators, we need to stop believing that everything is okay. And we need to listen to these children. The research needs to focus on what is working out and what's not working out, but then not leaving it at that. Providing resources is essential. I am also conducting research with college students at Santa Rosa Junior College, and eventually in the next few months we'll have a report, because I'm going to provide a training for faculty at Santa Rosa Junior College that will include information from here with the high school students, as well as the Latinx students at Santa Rosa Junior College. And so we invite you to, again, pay attention. We invite you to get involved. My website is lideresdelfuturo.org. And every day, Lideres del Futuro Avanzando is putting quick videos on TikTok and Instagram at Lideres _ DEL _ Futuro with a double O at the end. The goal here is that youth and other individuals can benefit from this English and Spanish couple of 15-second videos that hopefully will promote positive mental health. If you have any questions, you can reach out at lideresdelfuturo@yahoo.com, lideresdelfuturo@yahoo.com. And with that, we want to remind you that I also have a radio show on KBBF Bilingual Radio every Thursday from 5 p.m. until 7 p.m., where we talk about mental health, we talk about COVID, we talk about education, we talk about politics, we talk about whatever it is that our community needs in order for everyone to be successful. It is important that we take care of our community, because our community needs to come together and support each other. Thank you for your time.